Real NBA draft season is well and truly upon us. We're done with the mocks. We're into real leagues where real cash will be won or lost. Flanders, how are you, mate? I know that you've been in a couple drafts this weekend already, and I think I've done 3 this weekend.
Yeah, I had just the one this weekend for me, two last week, but 20 man and 11 categories. There's just something about it that just burns the brain cells out, and Carl certainly knows how to put on a good one there, and no IR. It's always just a lovely combination he's got over there at ball page.
Yeah, I suppose we can touch on that a little bit. How'd you go in that one today? Obviously, like we never believe a draft is won or lost or anything, because there's a lot to play out. But how'd you feel after going that one? Because I'm in that league as well.
Yeah, it's a big thing. I was pick four, so didn't get back around till about 37. And yeah, I went Luca into Bam, so I was pretty happy with that. And yeah, it's pretty deep. Like we're 10 players deep. You go 200 deep, and you only got 10 guys. So it looks pretty thin when you look at your rosters compared to 12 mans. But yeah, good fun, without a doubt.
Yeah,
Either way.
yeah, true. I had the 13th pick, and I ended up going Booker into Jalen Johnson, and yeah, just ended up picking up some really good guys. Actually today, and we'll have a look at this other draft that we're gonna dive into it. I actually didn't realize some guys were my guys until you're in actual drafts. Like like I think I took Brandon Ingram and John Collins. I took Brandon Ingram 3 times today and John Collins 2 out of 3 leagues. So yeah, just honestly, either they're sliding on boards or just find value where, yeah, like taking John Collins at about the 100 mark seemed like pretty good value every time he sat there. So I just took him.
Yeah, I've seen Mark Will. I got sniped the one before my pick, but he went at 82 in this draft. And for Mark
Yeah,
Williams, it's
right.
got to be elite. No, you don't trust the body, but he's if he plays, he's going to be better than that for sure. So it's incredibly good pick at 82 there.
Yeah, that's the league that I remember watching him go past me, and just with no IR, I was too scared to
Yep.
do it. Like I'm probably cool to take him in the 60s, when there's an IR spot, because I know that, like, when it's in that league, you're not adding whoever you're picking up off the waiver wire when you're working
Yep.
on the whole years thing. But yeah, look, great value in there at 82. So
Exactly. But yeah, can jump into this draft and see where people are actually taking guys. It's mock season's done, mate, and everyone's drafting guys now, and money's on the line.
yeah, I was pretty excited to get somebody a bit in partial for this. Mally and a few of our regulars were in this league. But I suppose things started off pretty normal in this. Nikola Jokic won. We saw Shea go at 2, and Wemby at 3, which is probably the first time I've seen that this year.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. I know some guys have even taken Wemby at 1, so to see him slide to 3, I think you'd be pretty happy there if you're Father Prime, seeing him make his way to there.
Yeah, and look, no real surprises. Probably up until number 9, we see Luca go at 4, Giannis at 5, Anthony Edwards at 6, Cade at 7, Anthony Davis is 8. I've seen Anthony Davis go in this sort of 8-9 realm a fair bit. I think that's above value at the moment, but yeah, probably just in some of our leagues, and maybe it's just been some, I don't know, some glazing from our front. James Harden sort of, yeah, goes just into that triple digits there. But this one was 16 men deep. And I suppose if you wanted your guy in James Harden, number 9 isn't too big of a reach, is it?
No, it's not the biggest reach, and I think you'd still be pretty happy there. I think I'd be happier to take him closer to the typical turn at sort of 12, 13, 14. But hey, if he's your guy and you think something, he's going to be your guy this year, you got to reach for these sort of things. And the difference between 9 and 13 in the rankings, all in all, isn't actually that much come the back end of the year.
Yeah, and I suppose, it's just somebody moving up a few spots, which means we've got a couple more sliding down from my own individual draft boards. Trey Young at 10 seemed like good value. Sabonis at 11, we've seen him going there a bit. In that 11 category league that we did today, saw him go in that 7 or 8 range, of course, because double doubles is a feature in that one. So he moves up. Quite a bit in those leagues that double doubles are there. But then, yeah, Steph and I've actually taken Mobley with the 13th pick. I was taking Booker in nearly every league, and I just thought, well, I don't want to ruin my whole season by
Yep.
by having Booker in everything. I just don't want every league of mine to be ruined by taking Booker there. So I went Mobley. What do you think of Mobley at 13? I didn't feel silly because I'm always happy with my own rankings and where I took him. But I saw him go at 21 or 2 today. So yeah, a
Yeah.
bit different there from 13 to 21 or 2.
It's a bit earlier than the consensus. I think Mobley has a bigger ceiling this year. I think he can make those steps to be the 13th ranked guy. Consensus has him on a blend at 23. Yahoo and Fantrax have got him at 19 and 20 respectively. So it's probably a bit higher than where I would have gone on him. But hey, again, if as we said with Harden, if he's your guy, he's your guy. Go get him.
Yeah, and I think it's just something I could build upon there.
Yeah.
Booker at 14, again, he's probably the guy. Everybody in the top 13 went according to plan, and I've got Mobley as 14. I just didn't want to take Booker again. And then Mally actually ended up taking Armin Thompson with the 15th pick, mate. Posted this up on Twitter and on Instagram, and that was probably the most contentious out of the first round. What are your thoughts as an expert in the field?
Oh, that is for my gut feel early for Iman. I like what he's got. I like the upside. I just do think there's a lot of guys out there in Houston. I've talked a lot about Sengun with Mally. He's big on Sengun as well. KD's obviously out there as well. Is it going to be enough ball for a men? I think with no Fred now, he's probably going to get some more ball handling duties. So there is probably some assist upside there for him. Um, but I still much prefer him as a second round pick in probably all formats. Somewhere late second is ideally where I think he'd be in the 20s.
Yeah, and I think the thing for me is maybe he probably could have got him in the second round and maybe got somebody a little bit better in this first round. But to be honest, when you have a look at who he took, like you could have flipped them on their head, and what I've seen in some of the other drafts, you'd end up with the same guys. I kind of back Mally's punt builds just because I know him, even though at the time it was a bit of a shock for me to see Thompson go at 15. And yeah, I suppose it allowed for some guys that I had further down the list to fall as well. Um,
Yeah.
we saw we saw Maxi in at 16, and then into the second round, of course, being 16 man, that's the 17th pick. We go into Paolo, Giddy, and Carl Anthony Towns. Now, again, gut reactions from you guys, the people on the internet, was why did Carl Anthony Towns fall into 20th? And for me, from what I've kind of seen, I sort of that I didn't even blink an eyelid when that happened. But yeah, we did get a couple of messages about it, mate.
Yeah, I think that's probably the fair value. There's been obviously coaching changes is the biggest thing out there now. No Tibbs. And with Mitch Robinson being the starting center in a lot of these preseason games, it's moving into the four, and he probably likes the four a bit more, but it's not going to be as fantasy relevant. So I think it does be a reasonable detractor from him. But I think probably sliding him to 20 is probably where the value's at.
He's currently sitting at 24 for me, and just the Thibs going as well. Just always expect those minutes, and maybe it to be a bit more managed. The minutes in there at New York, so that the guys are ready at the end of the season. And I know that that's 82 games away, but management probably starts like discussion as to whether New York will be playing finals basketball this year. It's how far they can go, and I think that
Mm.
it's going to be health. I think it's going to be done with a community. I think it's going to be, Josh Hart's going to be the guy one game, and then Carl Anthony Towns is going to be the guy one game. But you're right, not playing, I suppose, center classically or exclusively. He has to lose some rebounds when you've got Mitchell Robertson. What did he pull down? 16 boards in about 15 minutes the other day.
Something ridiculous, typical Mitch Robinson stat line. No one's shocked around here, are they?
No, no. Mate, I've always appreciated your honesty, and I've taken Donovan Mitchell with my second round pick. I don't think I've ever taken two people from the same team in the first two rounds before, but Donovan Mitchell just kept sliding with all this Lonzo Ball contention. I know, like, probably more of a super coach standpoint because we're doing content on that. We've been super high on Lonzo Ball due to his price and maybe the elevated minutes while Garland's out. But Donovan Mitchell in his preseason games have kind of slid across to the one. So I thought maybe a bump in assists are fine. Donovan Mitchell, if he was the 20th ranked player at the end of the year, even with a full squad, I wouldn't, really be surprised. But yeah, ended up with two Cavs, mate. Did you see any problems going back to back from the same team?
That's scary for me, and it's only for a playoffs problem of if they do start to load manage a few guys and they do, say, double load manage, your two guys, Mobley and Mitchell, in the final few weeks of the season, if they've got, 3 or 4 games clear and they're sort of locked into their spot, whether it's, the 1, 2, or the 3 seed out there in the East, if they're sort of locked into where they are and can't move too much, the chances of, Mitchell and Mobley having some lighter games, it's a scary thought for me. And having both of them, it's just the risk. But I trust your educated risk there, mate. But I suppose it's the one part with taking the Mobley pick is, if you do see Donovan slide, it's one of the very few times you'll get two of the same team in sort of, at 13 and then 20 here.
Yeah, the only other sort of team that I've seen, like I suppose heaps from the same team going, is maybe a Luca into a LeBron, or a Shea into a Jalen Williams, or a Chet or something like that. But yeah, you don't see it that often. Yeah, probably didn't even realize I was doing it. I was just picking, the best guys sitting there, and then I'm like, oh shit, they're in the same team. And then, like, yeah, I'm probably a bit worried for those 2 game weeks for these guys. But this is a very active league too. I think that there'll be plenty of
Mm.
trades, and I doubt I'll probably have both of them at the very end of the year. So
That's the thing to be conscious of. If you've got a very active league where you can move, rounds 1 and 2 guys, then that's something to keep an eye on because you might be able to, still move him on if that becomes a concern you've got come through, the middle of the year, particularly where you can move them on. If you've got some leagues where, the top 3 or 4 pick guys tend to sort of stay where they are and they're just moving later round guys, then it's just something to be aware of in your leagues and see what goes on.
mate, I'll let you have a little bit of a look at the first couple rounds and see if there's any like perfect pairings that excites you about those few. But the next ones we saw were Chet Holmgren, De'Aaron Fox, and Kevin Durant. Now, Kevin Durant for me went a little bit late in this. I mean, me myself didn't take him, so I can't really argue that he slid too much because I well and truly could have taken him. But if I wasn't taking Dono Mitchell, he was probably the next guy off the board. I don't know if everybody is just a little bit scared of age, but yeah, Kevin Durant going in that sort of 23 range, I haven't really seen yet. Like Chet, fine. De'Aaron Fox, probably a bit early for my liking, but look, I'm sure he fits. He actually fits probably pretty well with Sabonis there. But what do you think of Kevin Durant at 23, mate?
I think that's probably actually really good value. I like the fact he slid there. I think he's still, 37 now. So there's always the risk of, is he going to play, 60, 65, 70 games of the year? Is he going to play more? Is he not even going to get to 60? Are they just going to load manage him and and do what we're looking at with Cleveland. Are they just going to bank on playoff minutes for him rather than regular season minutes? But I think that's really good value to get KD at 23.
Yep. Yeah, me too. Flag, probably another, probably a contentious one there. I'm not too familiar with where you've got him on the board, but I think all of us had him outside of the top 30.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty I say down on him by what the consensus is, but I can't justify, I don't care how good this guy is and how good everyone says he is. I can't justify taking a rookie in my first 2 rounds. Uh, in any league, if I'm playing up to 20, it still puts him outside the 40. And he's gonna get a lot of usage, but is he probably gonna shoot like crap? Yeah, probably because he's a rookie. That's just what rookies do. He's gonna have a few, early deficiencies, and you're just gonna have to live with them. You don't know what he does year on year in the NBA, but yeah, just a bit early for me.
And in saying that, he did look absolutely phenomenal in his preseason debut. Maybe a little bit of recency bias, and like to be honest, that's the first real look that we've got in him. And if that's enough, and that's when you draft, you're only as good as your last game. We just all know that sort of, you get like college and that you don't play 82 games in a season. We do seem to have them have that slump through the middle of the year, but yeah, Cooper Flag could be the anomaly. So yeah, that was just one that was interesting. Of course, we've seen Jalen Brunson in this range a lot. Jaren Jackson Jr. I've saw him a bit higher before the injury, but excuse me. But yeah, I suppose with that there, only maybe missing a couple weeks to start, Jaren Jackson Jr. is probably good value there. You're just probably missing your second round pick for the first couple weeks, and then Shengun in there at what's that? We're at 27 now. I know that you're super high on Shengun. I probably wasn't as high, and then I've seen how he's used in the preseason, so I think that's probably pretty good value there, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not the Sengun guy. That is Melly who is the Sengun guy, and I
Oh yeah, sorry.
just I don't I think he's going to be probably one of the guys that's impacted by KD. I've seen the preseason, and I am prepared to eat the words if I've got to eat the words, but I'm not that big on him. I think it's still going to be an impact, and you've just got to be prepared for that. If anyone's going to be, I think it's him.
Yep. Um, Jalen Williams into Scotty Barnes into the injured LeBron. Um, Jalen Brown and LaMelo Ball. No real surprises there. I've given you a bit of time, mate. I've had a bit of a think too. Who do you think team wise has like just a really good pairing? I suppose we won't delve on it too much because of course there's 10 rounds to get through. But yeah.
That's right. I'm probably a big fan of Melly's team. So we got a men into Giddy there. So you got a fair bit of defense, get a lot of assists and passing. Looks to be a bit punt pointy here, which I know Melly's a big fan of that there. A men's probably not going to do a great deal of scoring. Neither's Josh. But I'm a big fan of that. I like that matching there. I think the Parlo calls a bit early, but I do think he pairs well with Maxi as well. So what about you, mate? What's
Yeah,
your
of course, I love anything I do because I did it.
you've got to.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. If I don't believe the best, I shouldn't be doing this. I do think that Nikola Jokic and LaMelo Ball pair quite well together. Jokic pairs with basically anyone, but LaMelo Ball, and I know it's a huge if he can stay healthy, that's crazy value in there
Mm.
at 32. And not that I know if it's the best pick, because I think that he might have been able to get him possibly in the next round. But I do think Luca and Scotty fit quite well in this punt field goal
Mm.
percentage punt turnovers kind of build. I think Scotty and Luca are two that can go really well. Obviously, like similar builds, if I can say anything in like stature.
Yeah.
And look. the difference between Scotty Barnes and Luka in talent is probably going to be the difference between the Lakers and Toronto on the ladder as well. But yeah, I just do think that what Scotty Barnes and Luka do well together do complement each other, and what they do bad also just leans into a pretty heavy punt early on. And if you're doing that, that's really nice.
Yeah, you find the punt and you commit to the punt, and yeah, that's what they've done there over at King Poly.
Mate, we've gone Jalen Johnson into Zion. Again, great picks there into the 30s. Jalen Johnson, yeah, I was saying that I was stoked off air with you, getting him at 28 in my other league. Even better value in here at round 3 in a 16 man. Zion looked great in it, great in Australia. Again, like just a big risk, but you can have immense upside with Zion this year. Hey.
Yeah, you will, and I think the leaned out build, the contract clauses that he's got built in will force him into having to play well. But I do think there is still always the historics of, is he going to be able to be out there often enough? And I think you're getting him in round 3. I think I'm fine with getting him in a 16 man, getting him round 3. You're not That's not like you're getting him round 2 where your season's derailed over that. You are getting that bit safer. You got two good guys. You can make up for it if he goes down and only plays 40 games.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got Jar next. I suppose he said that he'll be right for the season, so that puts him in the right range. Whether you believe, I suppose, Memphis
Do
as a
you believe
team or
Memphis?
Jar Morant. No, and I watch every bit. I listen to the Beale Street Blues podcast and everything, and nobody believes Memphis, but Jar reckons he'll be good to start the year, which is probably why I've cooled a bit on what's that point guard? Tyrese.
Ty Jerome?
Yeah, Ty Jerome. Yeah, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was using his full name. Only me and his mother usually use
Tyrese.
that. Um, Yeah. And then we've got Desi Bain in there. Yeah, completely fine. Not upsetting the apple cart there. We've got Franz Wagner, Jamal Murray, Brandon Miller, Bam Adebayo in all just relatively guys just taken in the realms of what should be. No real surprises there. I remember this very, very vivid. I had
Mhm.
Kristaps Porzingis, Pascal Siakam, and Derek White all in my queue go in about three picks before my team LeBronto Raptors ended up taking Trey Murphy there, mate. Do you think there's anything out of turn there, or they're all pretty good picks where they're sitting at? So
They're all pretty good picks there. I think I'm probably a bit higher on Jamal than what's that, 39, 38. Um, Seeing both Parlo, not a surprise, but probably Desi go before France is a bit of a shocker to me. But if a lot of it comes down to build fit, but seeing 3 Orlando guys go there in the top 37, it's a good sign for Orlando fans, all 4 of them. But yeah.
yeah, yeah, and they're all at Disneyland today, so they're not listening
Exactly.
today.
Not listening
Um,
to this. Yeah,
um,
Trey Murphy
what
for
I
you
do
there
know,
at
yep.
13 is good value.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I think, I might have taken him a couple times today as well. Maybe he's a my guy as well. I don't know. Like I just maybe I'm bullish in where I see people and where I see value. But yeah, I just found myself taking the same guys a few times today. And honestly, some of those guys were taken in like a $400 auction draft as well. And it's just where I started to see the value. And some was points leagues, and some were cat leagues. But yeah, look, I'm not unhappy there with Trey Murphy. Would have been pretty happy with Jimmy Butler there as well. Pretty high on Supercoach because of course it leans to the schedule a bit more when it comes to
Mhm.
him. And then Dyson Daniels and Austin Reeves rounded out the third.
Yeah, everyone seems to have called on Dyson, which I think I was pretty cool on that. I seen him going, seen him in some seconds, even in some 12-mans, but particularly some thirds going there. So I think that's probably a bit closer value. That would make him in a 12-man. That'd be fourth round. So I think that's a fair value for him.
Yeah, and I think a small bump to Austin Reeves is necessary. I picked him up in one of my drafts today. Look, LeBron's already starting to have some injury concerns, and look, unless you really want to go move up Rui Hachimura right up there in your boards, I know I'm not that guy. Austin Reeves should get a little bit of a usage bump, and if not, when LeBron's there as well, I think that he still returns this value in here.
Yep.
What's that? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just where he's sitting. We're at close to 50 at the moment. Look, Reeves is, in my opinion, going to be a top 50 guy. Good value that probably could be a top 30 guy to start off the season with LeBron down.
Exactly. Yeah. Get into him and get the minutes into him, and you never know. You can always trade out of these guys when they're hot, and hopefully someone bites on the cherry.
Zubac probably a bit early for me, especially with Johnny Collins coming in, but I'm not going to argue when we're getting into the 50s. When you need a center, Miles Turner. Look, trusting in Mally there with some probably relatively heavy punts that he's got going on. Vucevic, fine. I took Kawhi Leonard again, probably my first real risk outside of the fact that two Cavs play on the same team. But my first real risk, whether he plays back to backs or whether they manage him, but just all the news around. Look, I'm not going to touch on his lawn mowing company, but just the way that he simulated playing into the postseason to prove that he can do it and keep his body ready was probably enough for me to be okay to take him, especially outside of the top 50. I did not expect this man to be here.
Yeah, it's not playing back to backs again. There's always a contention around him that we all know about, and we're not going to dive into on it. But I think again, for what he can do, if he can prove he can be out there, I think there's the value in Kawhi being there at what's that, 52.
Yeah, and look, like, think about it. If you're going to take Kawhi again, the back to backs and everything like that. This has IR spots, so like I don't just get a duck egg when he doesn't play. I'm going to get whoever I pick up off waivers, and I think I can be quite savvy with that when the time comes when Kawhi gets ruled out late. Look, there's probably even guys on the Clippers that maybe Nick Batum fits in then, and he might be the 400th ranked player. But for that week or that game that he's out, look, he might return top 150 value. So, yeah, I think that I won't. Yeah, and I won't. I'll just look at the two teams that he's playing if it's late on in the day, and just pick somebody up and yeah, see what happens. Paul George. Paul George super early there. I wouldn't be touching him. As the same as Josh Hart, I think that is relatively early for Josh. Even though I really like Josh Hart, he was my guy for mine last year. But yeah, just again that New York bump. I'm kind of drawing a line through them, which I probably shouldn't. But I am. But Josh Hart before Mikal Bridges was a bit of a spicy one for me.
Yeah. We like Josh Hart. Does Mike Brown like Josh Hart? That's the real question we've got to ask ourselves.
Yeah, true that. Jordan Poole goes in there in the 60s. Zach LaVine, Denny Avdia. I accidentally overpaid for Denny Avdia today, but all's well that ends well. I think that he's going to be a really good fantasy player this year. I got in a bit of a pissing contest when it came to my auction draft, and I can be quite arrogant, so I ended up paying a lot of money for Denny Avdia, but I do think that he can return that value. Yeah,
you'll be all right. You'll get out of that one.
And then Osar Thompson into Jalen Green into Walker Kessler, and then we start to see, guys taking risks on some injured guys, in Joel Embiid, in Tyler Hero. Again, keep in mind that we do have IR spots in this league. It's a fairly standard format, apart from the fact that we just try and fit um, 16 guys in. And yeah, adding these guys in your IR when they do come back, you'd be pretty stoked there with, I suppose, your return on Embiid and Hero. So
Yeah, Kawhi River has taken a big risk there, going Embiid and Zion in back-to-back rounds there. That's a risky one for my liking, but sure, I'll hope those IR spots are pretty good for him.
yeah. That's me brother, actually. But yeah, with
Oh, love that.
with Shea and look, I can't argue with Zion. I 100% would have been there, but yeah, Embiid is
No.
is always a risk. But look, Zion looks healthy. I don't think I would be, I suppose too stressed about him. But as we get into round 5, and your math might be better than me, but we're going into DeRozan, into OG, into very early on an Ace Bailey. I don't. Again, we just had that chat about rookies. Ace Bailey is not in the top 100 for me.
No, he's not for me either. And looking at the names that you look further down that list that was still on the board here, like MPJ was still kicking around, Rudy Gobert, BI was still around, Larry Markkinen was still around. Like, there's a lot of other names there. That would be Ace Bailey being the second Utah guy off the list there, only just behind Walker Kessler, and that is a big statement call. I get he's balled out
Yep.
in preseason, but he hasn't balled out that much for me, and it's still preseason. Everybody looks good in preseason.
Yeah, true. Um, it seemed to be like the kind of range in the draft when everyone was filling their IR. I see DeJounte Murray there for
Yep.
Polly, and then RJ Barrett before Brandon Ingram. Any argument there? I think Brandon Ingram's going to be the quote unquote the guy, the scorer. I don't think Scotty Barnes is a very good scorer. He's going to be playing point. I did probably see Emmanuel Quickly. I've watched a few of their games and saw Emmanuel Quickly take a bit of a back seat to all of these guys, RJ and Brandon Ingram included. But I think I just backed the pedigree of Brandon Ingram before RJ, and I did in this draft. So in every
Yeah,
draft, actually.
I would do the same. I actually just traded for BI from RJ in a league, and I'm pretty happy with the win on there. So, yeah, that's what I'd do. I'd be back in BI instead.
Yep. Saw Naz. Obviously trying to fit a particular build there into MPJ, into Julius Randle, Wiggins going a lot early. There for me. He's probably the fifth guy in Miami. I've got him ahead of Davion Mitchell, but I'm probably going the 2 power forwards and Bam before him there. Rudy Gobert into Jakob Pertl. I really like Jakob Pertl's value at center. If you've missed out on an elite center early, Jakob Pertl in there is really nice for me.
Yeah, big fan of that there, and 3 Toronto guys in the same round, which is always nice. I think it proves how well rounded they are there.
Yeah, and whether they're good or not, sure. But I also don't think that they're that deep. So that I think these guys will play a fair chunk
Yeah.
of minutes. So.
And I think we're about to see here, going through this round and just having a peek into the next round. We see this second sort of center run that we get. We sort of kicked it off with Nas Reed, then it really kicked off with Rudy Gobert, runs through the end of this round, and then through to the next one too.
Yeah, well, that's what we saw. I've chatted about BI for me, Kevin Porter Jr. there, who does have a fantasy friendly game. I know that I'm looking at him probably taken a little bit early for me in fantasy basketball drafts, but he is the guy that I am getting for Supercoach. But yeah, you start to see Hartenstein and Laurie Markkinen and Jalen Duran, that sort of center run that you were talking about.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that went off the board there in round 5, and then we're about to get another little run here as well, flowing through into the 6th.
Yeah, and when you start to see a run, you do have to make sure that you get a center. Otherwise, you'll. I mean, sitting there with Jonas Valanciunas at your starting center and taking him at 140 usually doesn't bode well for your chances of winning this year. Hey,
Yeah, that's how you start punting wins, not punting anything else.
Tamani Kamara, a little bit of a my guy there for Mally there to pair with Isaiah Hartenstein. I, as per usual, got my Norman Powell.
Storm and Norman.
Yeah, which I'm obviously quite bullish on my takes on Norman. I actually found
Yep.
myself I took Jovic today as well. So not the only Miami player that I've picked up. I got Jovic with
Mm.
my last pick today, which I was honestly pretty happy about with what I've seen.
Yep. Yep. You'd be happy here. Yes. So after Norman, we got into CJ, Malik Monk, Jared Allen. Anything there? And then after that we had Nick Claxton. So had a little bit of that run there. The 5 shooting guards back to back to back, and then Jared Allen, Nick Claxton. A few more centers went off the board there. So cleared a fair few centers out and
Yeah,
a fair
not
few shooting guards out in a little run there.
Yeah, not really too much for me to say, but I suppose when I look at my center ranks, Rudy Gobert's as well as like Nick Claxton are those sort of heavy punt free throws, maybe even Jalen Duran. But yeah, I'm pretty close to most of these with your center. But Nick Claxton seems to be the last of those. I'm going to call them good centers because when you start to get to Alex Sarr and stuff, it does start to become a bit muddied as to whether they're good or they might be a bust this year. So
Exactly. Yeah. Even then, Nick Claxton, the shutdown risk out there at Brooklyn's still a bit risky. So I've ended up with him in a few leagues there, and I'm been pretty happy to move him on. But the shutdown risk is just something you need to factor in.
Anthony Simons into Cam Thomas, into Christian Brown, into Andrew Nembhard. John Collins goes in the 6th here with Emmanuel Quickly. Again, point guards do seem to dry up relatively early, so those point guards and centers, you got to get. Darius Garland, probably the only thing for me was Darius Garland going after DeJounte Murray. I think I probably prefer Darius Garland probably coming back a touch earlier. Again, like when you're talking 9-cat, it's about the value and where your builds sort of lean towards. But I probably would have taken Darius Garland over DeJounte if I was filling my IR. So
Yeah, the timelines are a bit better for Darius out there. And I think he probably offers arguably the same value as DeJounte. So I think, the fact you're getting him, what's that, 16, another 12, 28 picks later, it's great value there.
Phew, I probably do need to wash my mouth out talking about good centers when we see Mark Williams
Oh,
go in the 7th round in 16, man.
this is an ESPN draft, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. ESPN for some reason seems to be the only one that has him a mile down in ADP. And I
Yeah,
was
okay.
happy to draft on that for the 20 man because I almost picked up Mark Williams here, but ESPN has him at 105. Fantrax is 63, Yahoo 84. So there's a massive difference across all three. And I think if you're talking the start of the 7th in a 16-man league, Mark Will is the guy.
Yeah, this is like getting close to that sort of 100 areas. But look, I suppose it must be a family trait to take D'Angelo Russell as well in there with the next one. This is kind of the range that I see him start to be value. And like I said, the point guards disappearing. Peyton Pritchard, we saw him go in the 40s or the 30s today. Getting taken around this 100 range seems like elite value,
Yep.
especially with some of the other guys like meat and potatoes in your Aaron Gordons, your Jabari Smith, and Onyeka Okongwus. Have you taken Peyton in any drafts this year yet?
No, I haven't. He's actually gone early, like a lot of guys are going early on him. I'm not as big on it. I think the 6-man role suits him really well, and when you're playing the 6-man role, you're not getting as much attention, but rolling into that starting role that we're expecting him to get, I think the starting attention's not gonna be as fruitful as everyone thinks for him. But it was interesting in the round before, we seen Anthony Simons go before Peyton Pritchard, and I would be taking Peyton well before Anthony Simons.
Yeah, a bit more efficient, gets a few more assists. I still think Anthony Simons will go out and outscore him. But yeah,
Yep.
look, I completely agree. I'd be taking Peyton before him. Um, we see Kalel Ware go again. The big question for me is Kalel or Jovic. And I think Jovic is a better fit beside Bam, which allows Kalel to eat maybe with the second unit a bit more. I didn't move him on my board when he went to the bench. He just kind of
Yep.
stayed the same. So yeah, completely fine there.
Yeah, I think it depends on what they're like, what you're looking for out of Bam, and I think it depends on what they're looking for out of Bam over there in Miami. Because depending on what you need out of him production wise, depends on whether you use a Jovic or whether you use a Kalel Ware. So there's the
Yeah.
options there and the flexibility to use him. So probably just for any Bam owners, you might find some stats sort of pivot throughout the year depending on what lineups they run.
Yep. And we've got Vassell, we've got Cam Johnson, I think is pretty good value outside of the top 100. I've seen him going outside of the top 100 a few times today.
Yep.
PJ Washington into Jaden Ivey into Gafford. Now I'd missed out on a lot of big centers, and I ended up with Aiton. What are we in about that 110 range? I'm not
Yeah, about
really
105,
high
110,
on.
yeah.
Well, I'm not really high on Aiton when I see him go at 60. But I'm higher
Mm.
on Aiton when I see him outside of the top 100. When I'm seeing, some of these other centers, like I did pair him with Donovan Klingen in the next round as well. So I've not panicked, but I've missed out on that one tier of, probably second tier of centers, and ended up grabbing a couple there.
Yeah,
Look, I'm fine to take the risk at 110. So
yeah, for sure. I think that's all right there, and in reality is you probably got the best of what was left.
yeah, and the again, chatting about ESPN rankings, I absolutely kicked myself when I saw Mally take Matas Buzelis at about
Yep.
that 112, a few spots behind me, because again, I was struggling to put some kids down to bed while I was doing this, but yeah, absolutely missed Bazelis, and that's probably the thing that, if you're focusing on your draft and you've got your draft board and everything, go and rearrange your own rankings when it comes to ESPN, and I think that you're going to have an elite draft because their rankings are by far the worst out of Yahoo, Fantrax, and even Sleeper that I've seen this year. So.
Yeah, exactly, and a lot of guys will probably tend to play points over there as well, so a lot of sort of data and rankings tend to be skewed a bit because of that. So it's just something to be aware of depending on the platforms you're playing on. You can as well get wicked value, such as a Buzelis here. 15th pick in round 7. I've seen him go way earlier than that. I've seen him go round 6 in 12 team.
Yeah, I've seen him go 70. That's pretty crazy value. Um, Edgecombe into Keegan Murray into Drew Holiday into Benedict Mathurin. Again, like we're in that sort of range that they're all completely fine picks. I've taken Donovan Clegan. I don't know your thoughts on Donovan Clingan this year. I've sort of mentioned that again. The taking away of Aiton gives him, I suppose, first crack at center. I don't believe in Young Hansen or anybody like that. So
Nah, as long as the time machine stays away from him, he'll be all right. So
yeah, absolutely. Dra- Draymond Green and Dante and Suggs and Heald and Herb Jones and Jeremy Grant into Reed Shepherd, a couple of rookies in Castle and Harper, despite them being injured, into Clay Thompson, Keontae George, and Tari Eason. Again, like we're getting into the 130 range. Like there's no real surprises I saw or any massive steals either. There in those picks.
Yeah, no, I think that's all pretty good there. Tari Eason's probably about where you'd expect him to be, but he's great for a defense build there. I think Tari preseason's going to be Tari season this year.
Yeah, I mean, if the injury bug sticks around, he's going to get plenty of opportunities. So,
Definitely will. Round 9.
um,
There we go.
Hunter, somebody I've been a little bit higher on, even than Tari Eason, um, in there in this range as we start to get into the 140s. Kuzma, look, he might get you some points on occasion. Tobias Harris, super safe, as well as Jaden McDaniels. He had a top 100 season last year. Look, I'm not sure if I expect the top 100 season again, but as we're getting into the 140s, I'm starting to see some value in these Livelies and Aldamas and your Yemens and
Who took
even
Westbrook?
Kaminga playing ISO there. I think there was probably more value in round 9 than there was in round 8, to be honest, in this draft.
Yeah, I think there's some great steals here. I think I do like the idea of Kyrie Irving going this late as well. Like that's good value. I've got him in the last few picks of some drafts with an IR spot if I haven't already filled it. Kaminga, there's every chance he gets traded. So I'm big on that there and taking the risk there. Bradley Beal as well. I like that spot for him there. Everyone still thinks he's being overpaid, but been well spoken about over at the Clippers. He's probably getting paid fairly now, not overpaid.
Yeah, 100%. And I took Ty Jerome. That was Friday night, so that was probably a bit before I've heard all the news about Ja Morant. But look, yeah, Ty Jerome's actually played really well today in what I saw, starting to build some connections with those Memphis players. And then yeah, again, some more injured guys. I see Mally's got his injury stash in Zach Edey there, and Con Nipples in there at late, and then we head into the last round. People having a bit of a slash there at Zachary Ricochet, which played pretty well today. Nikola Jovic, which has had some real preseason flashes. Bobby
Yep.
Portis. I've actually already dropped Kalman Malauk there. Juggling
Yep.
some kids. I got auto draft, and I figured if I had to auto draft, it was going to be in the last pick.
Yep. 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 I think you like that's fine though. You're probably going to stream the spot anyway, so
Yeah, definitely always stream my last spot. And to be honest, with Ty Jerome there, given the opportunities, I've probably got two guys to stream there. Grayson Allen could fit that Bradley Beal build, I suppose. And Bradley Beal was the 100th ranked player last year. I mean, it's just how many shots he gets with Jalen Green there as well. But look, Booker's played with Grayson before, so he could get his shots up. Again, this is the range that we start to see your Schroders and Sextons, just people just having it, throwing a dart at the dartboard. Don't really
yep.
love McCain considering he's injured. But yeah, I like Cedric Coward being a Memphis guy, and your Derek Queens and Koulibaly's and yeah, nothing too spicy in there in the last round.
No, I feel pretty good, like good value there with Jovic for Melly. I feel like I'm giving him compliments all this pod, but yeah, I think he's picked up some good value there. So you got to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, and I don't mind Mally's team when I have a look at some of the teams there. I scratched my head a little bit at times during the draft because yeah, like you said, like Amen and Josh Giddey were probably pretty good fits together. But when you're actually watching it unfold live, you're like Armin Thompson at 15. starting to get absolutely wild. But yeah, it does seem to add up there. Punting points, probably punting field goal percentage, and punting
Yep.
turnovers from what I can see with oh no, maybe no, punting free throw percentage, not
Or percentage.
turnovers. Looking at Isaiah Hartenstein and even Giddy and Dyson and Armin's definitely not a good shooter.
Yep.
Yeah, it does start to make sense now that we're at the end of the league. Hey.
Exactly. And I think it's one of those things you might seem like a crazy man come through round 4, but once you come through and you fill it out through 6, 7, 8, and you start piecing it together, it might seem like an overpay at the time, but if you built the team and you actually got what you wanted and you start winning, matches because of it, it doesn't matter if it looks like an overpay because you're winning. That's what you're here for.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to focus on one more team, and that was Bisons. That was Adam there. He's went Jokic into Lamelo Ball, and then picked up some pretty good value later on. We're starting to see your DeMar DeRozan's, your Mark Williams extremely late in this one. Um,
Mm,
Again, I'm sort of guided by you a bit here. You were really happy with the Tari Eason pick. I was really happy with the DeAndre Hunter pick. He got Jalen
yep,
Johnson in the third in this. And then he's actually got Tyler Hero and Darius Garland filling up his two IR spots to start off. So he'll get a couple streamers in. And I think he's got a team that I'm pretty scared of if he can sort of tread water while Tyler Hero and Darius Garland aren't playing. I'm
yep.
pretty scared of his team. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good structure he's got there, so you can't complain with that there, and again, if you can get through, he'll be, uh he'll be good come, 2026.
Look, mate, that's a wrap up of a 16 man real cash draft. There was no, you know, are people just doing this because this is a mock or anything? That's real dollars on the line in that league. And yeah, heading into our last week before preseason, we've of course got our super coach stuff coming out. I think I was going to try to I don't even know if I've spoken to you about this. I think I was going to try to do a podcast with you on Thursday, mate, and yeah, rolling out some super coach stuff during the week. And just, we've got one more weekend of drafting, so I'm sure we'll do some more draft content and how that fits. And then yeah, right up before the start of the season, we're going to start doing, your start sits, your waiver wire ads, who's playing in the double game weeks, and everything. If you do have, your IR stashes and you're looking to add guys off the waiver, we, of course, have our Patreon in the link below. We've got all our written articles going up, and that gives you a direct line to us through our WhatsApp. I think we've covered
Yep,
everything tonight, mate.
I feel so, mate. We've, come in here, we smashed it out, and we've gone through it's good to see not what, the mock draft says because it's easy to do a mock, but when you actually got your money on your line and you gotta back your call in, it's good to see where people are actually taking these guys.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. As much as I say that, I love Embiid at 60, didn't take him anywhere today. So I
Yep.
must yeah. And there definitely would have been certain points where I took him, but yeah, didn't take him at 60, and he was sort of taken by the time it come around to 80. So yeah, it's funny. Money does some things. Apparently, I've got more faith in Brandon Ingram than I thought I had. So maybe I might buy a jersey this year.
Safe as houses with that man, I tell you.
You've listened to a Ball Logic podcast. Cheerio.